Welcome to the Right Tack, where we help private practice owners face the headwinds of the healthcare industry. I'm Paul Jonas, CEO and co-founder of BreezyBilling and Phoenix Credentialing.
And I'm Jim Jonas. I'm a therapist, co-founder of BreezyBilling, Phoenix Credentialing, and I started the Jonas Center years and years ago.
So episode 1. Today we're talking about the goals of this podcast and what we call our ground rules here at Breezy. No guests will be joining us today, but we do have some great folks lined up for future episodes.
Great folks.
All right, well, let's dive in.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so today we're talking about the podcast a little bit. We're going to talk about Breezy's ground rules. But first, what are you doing this weekend?
What am I doing this weekend? Well, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I may do a project. I'm not sure which one that would be. I'm going to do some decking, possibly, because we're not quite finished with the decking that I need to do some repair decking. So that'll be interesting. And then maybe going to Valley Fair with my son and family.
Yeah, so that's what I'm planning to do this weekend is take the kiddos to Valley Fair. Right now it's just me and the boys, I think. So but all are invited. I think my wife is going to appreciate some quiet time while we go. Well, I'll try not to vomit on the rides, and my kids will love every minute of it.
And I won't go, and neither will Lisa. So it'll be great. It'll be great.
So the goals of this podcast, real quick, we're really trying to use it to help mental health providers build their practices. Whether they're starting from scratch or they've already started something and have been doing it and want to grow, that is who we're trying to reach with this podcast. We've been doing, together, we've been working together now for over a decade.
Yeah.
So Breezy's going to turn 10 this year, but we started this project a little before that. But then even before that, when do I even dare ask how long you've been doing this?
Oh, the therapy stuff?
Yeah.
Well, 1981.
Oof.
That's when I got my master's degree in clinical social work. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a few years.
We'll have to check the math on that. But there's decades of experience here. And that's what we're hoping to share. I mean, our big goal here with Breezy, with Phoenix, with the Jonas Center, with kind of everything we do is to help behavioral health providers stay independent. And that's really what we're trying to do. So we'll be covering topics for starting a practice. We'll be covering the business aspects and marketing. We'll be talking about how to grow a practice, how to onboard clinicians and offboarding, other operational details, just anything on the business side that maybe somebody who has a master's degree in some kind of mental health field, or not, I guess, any real degree, anybody who's helping people is who we're trying to reach, and who wants to really do it their way. So without further ado, before we go any further, we should probably explain the name of the podcast, The Right Tack, and just what the heck that means and where it came from.
Well, yeah.
You want to go ahead?
Well, I could get started. So The Right Tack, it's all began probably with actually my father-in-law who taught me sailing. And now we've continued that. We've continued sailing and try and get out there as much as we can. We're scheduled to go tomorrow night, but
we'll see what the weather does.
We'll see what the weather does. It's supposed to go from 91 to 68 for a high tomorrow. Oof. That'll be interesting. So, but anyhow, there's some really nice sailing lakes in Minnesota. One of them being Lake Waconia, which is where we take our boat fairly frequently, or as much as we can. Got a 19-foot O'Day Mariner, which is a day sailor, and it's a drop keel boat, so you can trailer it pretty easily, and you can fit 4 to 6 people on it. And it's a great way for the family. We've connected that way over the years. I think it's a 1975 Baby Blue.
It's been sailing longer than you've been doing mental health.
Just a little bit. That's true. I graduated high school in 75.
Oh,
how about that?
That's pretty good.
Okay.
We'll have to start a fact.
Fact
We'll have our own
checking.
wiki page soon.
Right. Okay. Do you want to take over with tacking?
Yeah. So the tack, what is the right tack? What's a right tack? So first, just tack. A tack is just the direction a sailboat travels as it relates to the wind. And I will admit I'm totally reading a definition. We had a feel for what a tack is, but you should probably know exactly what that is. And then tacking is a sailing maneuver that you use when you need to sail into the wind. So obviously you can't sail directly into the wind with a sailboat, so you have to zigzag back and forth to make your way if you're heading into the wind. When you're tacking, it's not easy. It's definitely slower than sailing with a tailwind, although I'd argue it's a lot more fun because usually you got the boat tipped on the side because the wind's hitting it on the side. So you get some fun angles, and especially on some of those more blustery days. We've had a lot of fun in the sailboat on some of those more blustery days. The fun part of it is that you get to you make your way into the headwinds. So despite having headwinds, you can still get to where you're trying to go. And that's the as you can probably guess, the analogy that we're using here. So building a practice is pretty much the same thing. It's not always easy. There are plenty of headwinds, but it's also exciting, fun, and rewarding. Okay, so what we're trying to do in this podcast, as I mentioned before, is help therapists and mental health professionals navigate the waters of building their practice. First time on the boat here, or if you're looking to build a bigger one and add to your crew. So we're leaning heavy into the metaphor here. So we'll be hosting guest speakers. There's therapists, providers, program experts, other third-party service providers like us, and the goal here is to give you the tools to start and build your practice. So back in October of 2023, we asked ourselves, if the world is a playground, how do we make the best of our time through the climbs, slides, and swings of it? This is the approach to Breezy's ground rules. And I got to kind of go back to, I always tell the story of me being in high school with blue hair, listening to punk rock. And
I don't know who his parents were.
Perhaps you for letting me do that and experience life that way. But
things took care of themselves, didn't they?
Well, yeah, it lasted about 3 months.
Oh boy.
So had kind of an anti-corporate streak at the time, and still kind of do. And I think that's part of why we really want to focus on helping the independent providers. And that's also why we don't want to call these core values, because everybody can do core values. But really, so we're going to put our own spin on it, call them ground rules, since we're all playing on this playground. And we've got a few here that we're going to talk through with you. All right. So our first ground rule is pinky swear. And what that means is don't just promise something, really, really mean it. Whether it's hitting a deadline, being prepared for a meeting, or reaching a goal, do it, be accountable. This is the first of our 5 ground rules. And it's just a kind of a be true to yourself, be true to others, and do what you say you're going to do. And we hold all these, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but we hold ourselves accountable to these. We hold each other accountable. We'll even hold our customers accountable to these ground rules. So this really is how we operate, or how we want to operate or exist in the world, is by following these ground rules. So pinky swear is the first one.
Yeah. Second one is whip it. What does that mean? Well, when faced with challenges, be tenacious. I like tenacity. If you've exhausted your options, ask for help. And if you make a mistake, learn from it and teach it, and then move on. Don't let it just get you down. You can learn from it and move on from it. So when you have a problem, you want to whip it.
Our next one is stay limber. And what that means for us is to be prepared to go a little further, give a little extra to help someone out. Everyone's going through something, so assume a position of kindness and patience. Be flexible. And one of the things I like about that one is that one started off as something else, but after talking to the team, one of our staff members came up with that, about the assuming a position of kindness and patience, and we just had to throw that in here. And it's just it's do a little bit of something extra, still, respecting the rules and boundaries of how we work and live together. But, um, you know, do what you need to do to help somebody get done what they need to get done.
Well, yeah. Um, and some of this, I guess I'm going to editorialize here a little bit because I'm thinking about um, keeping this in mind for all of us and all of our employees. And it does relate down to the customers or up to the customers, and being flexible and kind and patient and respectful. I think we really try and work on that with everyone we're involved in, and it's one of the reasons I think we've been able to stay in business and keep the good staff that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. And I'd even go all the way to the vendors and the people that we work with too. I
yeah,
haven't really thought of it in that context before, but just with the people that we want to work with, that we want to help us build and grow ourselves, everyone, if the whole team's following these 5 rules, whether they realize it or not, or are held accountable to it or not, that everyone kind of does that. It's the people that we work well with. It sure seems to
it
to go
it
that
does, and we've got a really good team now, whether it's vendors or partial folks and the full time people. So that fourth ground rule is take good care. There's so many priorities in life. We all know that. And sometimes we forget to stay focused on what matters. And that's taking care of yourself and your family and your work. And we would both say in that order, you
way.
really, if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't be taking care of the other aspects of your life and what is really important. What at the end of the day, what's a priority for you, and that's how it should run. And that it means doing a good job in all those areas, I would say. So take good care.
Yeah. And then the last one is party on. So we celebrate our wins, we commiserate our losses. We want people to find joy in their quirks and commonalities and the success of those around them. So whether you're doing a little happy dance or a big get together, party on. And what that really means is just kind of find a reason to celebrate, or at least be together through the thick times and the thin. So life is not always happy, and life is not always sad. So regardless, you got to be mindful and, again, honest with yourself about those things, and go, if you got to go talk about something tough that's going on with one of your accounts, or if you've got a hard discussion you have to have with somebody else, you can go do that and get advice. Or if you just got a new pet, let's celebrate the new pet, send some pictures out to the team or whatever. We just really like to celebrate and commiserate here. So, those yeah anything on that?
Well, I'm sitting here and I'm going, I'm celebrating my solar panels.
Oh. Well, so and that's one of the next segments. So good show.
Okay.
But before we go, any final thoughts on those ground rules? I remember making those
on the ground rules.
And so you and me and Carrie, our director of operations, the 3 of us got together and kind of came up with an outline, and then we shared those with the team. And I know I'd talked earlier about the stay limber and assuming a position of kindness. We really needed these to accurately reflect what we as a group at Breezy felt were the fair rules for working together and playing together and having fun together, and all the things that you kind of need to have to just be a human driven company. And so I remember, the 3 of us kind of came up with the idea and then ran it by the team and had some really good feedback from everybody. So, I recommend doing that exercise with anybody. And there's plenty of places online you can get like the steps for how to work through that. Or heck, you can go check your local GPT AI, whatever thing, and it'll tell you the steps that you need. But it's a real good exercise to go through for anybody, whether you're an organization of 1, because it'll help you grow if you to 2 or 4 or 8, etc. Or if you're a huge organization that's already got something in place but not quite sure, I highly recommend doing this. It was a real good fun exercise and a fun way to connect on something for the entire team.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think too, it's like the ground rules that are here that we came up with and reviewed. Uh, there are things you can remember. So many core values or whatever from companies. It's like, oh yeah, that's nice, but it's not that meaningful. These are meaningful, and they are easy to remember, and you can use them both with the company, but for your life in so many ways. It's
mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah, we even have chats for some of these. So there's definitely a party on chat. So
Hmm.
the entire team is on it, and whenever somebody wants to give kudos to somebody else or wish a happy birthday or what have you, we just throw it on the party on chat. We also have recipe chats and book
Oh,
chats. Like there's a
okay.
lot of good. There's got a lot of good chats that aren't necessarily work related,
Great.
and that's important too because as part of work life balance is understanding that the two can be part of the same thing at the same time as well. And so these ground rules really try to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So
Great. All
so
right.
that's that. But one last segment. We're doing we're doing our final outro segment here, and it's the before we go, we want to ask each other what we've been thinking about lately. So, Dad, what have you been thinking about lately?
Well, son, we just got solar panels on our place. Well, 3 weeks ago now, and I feel like a kid. It is so much fun. I haven't felt that much fun well since starting to work with you.
Wow,
Yeah. It's a
that's
it's
a
a
lot of
big
fun.
deal. so it's just great to see us kind of contributing to the grid rather than taking from the grid, and yeah, it's
The number of times you pull out your app to show
oh no.
it's a sunny day. Look at how many kilowatts I'm generating right
Man,
now.
it's amazing.
Or
I'm
it's
learning about
cloudy.
I'm learning about kilowatt hours. Do you realize that the average household uses 30 kilowatt hours a day? The average.
And how many? Do you know how many you put back on the grid with that?
Well,
With the panels? Yeah.
on a sunny day, I can put 150
Oh wow.
kilowatt hours back to the grid.
So
Yeah.
you're covering my house a little bit.
Yeah, just a little. So, yeah, that's been a lot of fun.
Cool.
What about you? What the heck?
Well, I've been thinking about work and fun a lot lately, and part of that is because we have been building that deck on the back of the studio out on the farm, and we could devote an entire episode about that studio because there's so many things with that. It's part chicken coop, part art studio, and now there's a beautiful west facing deck off of that yeah, you, me, and
Gorgeous.
my wife have built over the last month or so, I'd say, with with some help from other family too. I did not dig the post holes, so I can't take credit
That's
for
true.
that. That was quite the
That's
job.
shout out to Calvin.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, it was a fun family affair. It was a lot of hard work. It was sweat. It was a couple of swear words here and there when things didn't go right, but also just a chance to hang out. And then you get at the at the end of the day or the end of the weeks, there's this just beautiful deck looking west. So it's just a reminder and something I've always believed. Some of the most fun I've had was working. And, if I was to ask my 14-year-old, he'd probably think I was crazy because no work is fun. But he's also a hard worker too. But I really get a lot of satisfaction out of working and building and making things and then seeing that final product. And it just reminds me that, work and fun aren't opposites, that they commingle, and you can do a lot of that in any kind of work or any kind of play too. And as I'm going through the work day, I'm also trying to make it fun and entertaining. And you can kind of see that with our ground rules too, is we're like they're not like they're not your average just corporate whatever ground rules. We try to have some fun with it. And I think anybody who works with us, whether as an employee or a customer or vendors, they quickly see that the number our number one focus is really making sure that we are doing good work, but also having a good time at the same time, and that uh, that's done well for us so far. It got us
Yeah.
to the point where we can at least think we can start our own podcast.
Oh boy.
That people are going to want to hear from us about that. So we'll see.
For
We'll
sure.
see.
Yeah.
So I think that's about it for this one. You got anything else you want to add?
Right. Well, being the older guy here, I'm thinking life is short. So to make it enjoyable, is really important for, all of us, I think. So I just pass that on. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
All
Well,
right.
until next time, keep
Yeah.
your eyes on the horizon,
Oh.
and we'll see you on the next podcast.